We talked about Lola Young just a few weeks ago on the show, and my theory that she is the most recent pop industry plant. She is still on the rise in fame, and she just announced her upcoming album, which, I kid you not, is titled I'm Only Effing Myself, out September 19th. And Lola Young is known for being incredibly vulgar in her song lyrics and her visuals. I think that it's quite telling. She did not find massive success for years as a musician until she, number one, uglified herself, and number two, started over-sexualizing her brand image. And I think that she is being essentially pimped out by a record label. Not that it isn't her choice, but this is the only way that you can make it today. Let's take a look at the image, though. To get the point across, she's posing next to a blow-up doll version of herself.
Oh, God.
So you see, like, it's a message about only effing herself, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah, so this obviously harkens back to the controversy just last week over Sabrina Carpenter's new album cover for Man's Best Friend, where she is posing like a dog in front of a man who is faceless in the corner, grabbing her by the hair. Lots of feminists saw that album cover and said, this is the opposite of empowering. Other feminists who are Sabrina Carpenter fans argue that it's actually a satire of the patriarchy, which means that it is empowering. And my conclusion was that maybe it's an attempt at satire, but a poor one at that.
I mean,
so
usually it
that's
has to
not a
be-
way that you can just kind of silence all of the criticism of the message behind it.
It has to be clear, otherwise the satire doesn't work. Like
Yeah.
if people are asking what okay, so that's not necessarily true. So some of the best satire now is done purely because of how ridiculous society has gotten, where you kind of ride the line where you're like, oh, that's ridiculous, but that could be real. But that's usually more in the line of like social commentary satire, not the same thing as like feminist satire through like a major label. That's the stuff you'll normally
Right.
see when you see the women making the manic videos on Instagram and you don't know whether they're being serious or not.
Yeah. And I think it's the perfect loophole to just do whatever you want and call it feminist or
Yeah.
call it empowering. It's obviously not. This album cover, I believe, is more straightforwardly satirical. Still not intelligently executed satire, I would say. And people had a lot of thoughts. One said, I couldn't help but wonder, where are all of the people pissed off about Sabrina's album cover? Is this only different because she's not the beauty standard or considered as conventionally attractive? Do we define male-centeredness by male perception? Is it how attractive men find a particular woman? Obviously, Lola Young is not as conventionally attractive as Sabrina Carpenter.
Yeah, but you said that she like made herself ugly on purpose. That's even funnier. Like she's like, I can't get ahead being traditionally attractive, so I have to make myself uglier so that I have a way in which I stand out.
Well, it's bizarre because Sabrina Carpenter was already conventionally attractive, but she chose a very specific brand image for herself to take off in popularity a couple of years ago when she was opening for Taylor Swift, where she took on the pin-up persona with the costumes, the rhinestones, and the big hair, and the clown makeup that men hate. So in a certain sense, she's not conventionally attractive either anymore. A lot of men are saying that she's deeply unattractive, actually. But they seem to be aiming for the same faux intellectual feminist brand. Another one said, why are we trying to make sex dolls feminist in 2025? Where are the think pieces like you all did to Sabrina Carpenter and Chappell Roan, or do you just like to pick and choose? The main reason why this isn't attracting as much controversy as Sabrina Carpenter or Chappell Roan is because it goes without saying, Lola Young is not nearly as famous as either of those two examples.
Purely like a volume issue.
However,
like there aren't enough people talking about it.
She's clearly on track to become probably the next Chappell Roan, you know, the next Sabrina Carpenter. She is, at this point, she has billions of streams on Spotify.
It just doesn't feel.
crazy.
It doesn't feel real.
Yeah, I mean,
doesn't.
a big part of that was that she got a feature on a Tyler, the Creator song last year, so a lot of people discovered her through that. I didn't even know, though. I didn't know that. I just heard her song Messy on a bunch of Instagram reels and learned who she was through that. But that's why fame is so weird these days, because you are like, what is a Lola Young?
Mm-hmm.
But billions of people are listening to her music.
Well, it's like what is it that Tim would always talk about? Like the idea that like you'll be micro famous in like a small pocket of the internet, and that's certainly true. But these are technically the celebrities who aren't supposed to fit that mold. They're supposed to be bigger than that because they've got the mainstream backing. The idea is that you can become a creator on YouTube yourself, be really, really big, and have your own micro pocket of the internet where you reach millions of people. But that's not the same thing as, you know, Interscope Records or one of these big labels signing you on and then putting the media and print ad behind you where you're supposed to reach a more mainstream level of success. The idea that you can have billions of streams and it doesn't translate to at least hundreds of millions of people knowing who you are seems incongruous.
I feel like there's that it has, or part of it has something to do with like the way that the streams count when they're used in other forms of social media. So the billions of streams, and this is just my sense, I'm not 100% sure, but the billions of streams are because they're in some kind of clip, like a short reel.
So does that count as a stream?
That's not. That's the thing that I'm saying is I think they do count as a stream,
Okay.
and it's not a billion times listening to the song all the way through.
Yeah.
Well, and also that means that it wasn't a billion people searching you out specifically to look at your content.
Yeah.
It was billions of people who just happened to click on a reel
Right.
of somebody doing
Right.
something stupid that had your song playing in the background.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes more sense. But still, I believe that she is being algorithmically promoted.
Of course, absolutely.
There's a huge marketing arm behind her rise to fame.
I would
100%.
love to be able to get somebody on here that does like the music direction for TV shows, because like one of the big things in the early 2000s was like you wanted to be a band who got featured on like a show, like a montage in a final scene of a show, and then what they would do is the band would then upload that song multiple times onto their channel, once just as the album version of it, but then they'd upload it with a graphic of whatever show it was featured on with the episode number in there so that people could go and find it on there. And that was a way that you got noticed back before streaming was really what it is now.
I just learned what on demand was like days ago. I didn't know what on demand meant, but
Like
you wanted
renting
your
a movie on demand?
Yeah. You wanted like your music video or your set to end up on demand, so that people would discover you through that.
Oh, like so
It's
people
just
just like they're
crazy
too
to
lazy
think
to make
about.
their own playlists, so they just click on demand.
No, that's what it was before playlists existed.
I also didn't know what HBO stood for till recently. I didn't.
Yeah. So I also wanted to give context to why Chappell Roan was mentioned. I want to show this image of Chappell Roan. She did a guest appearance on RuPaul's Drag Race last month, dressed up as a blow-up doll, with also blow-up legs in the air. Okay, a lot of people criticized her for this. Some critics found the outfit to be unsettling or potentially misogynistic,
Just a little
with
bit.
discussions around the objectification of women and implications of dressing as a sex doll. One user said, "You can't reclaim something like a blow-up doll. It will inherently be an object to degrade and dehumanize women." Others viewed it as a form of camp and a critique of how women or how men objectify women. And this debate will just go on and on for eternity. But same thing with Chappell Roan. She was making music as an independent artist for many years, since she was a teenager. She's now either 26 or 27 and just now found that right place, right time to blow up as an artist. And just coincidentally it happened when she started dressing up like a drag queen. And
Now, is that because the industry wants it, or is that
Yes.
simply because it's the aesthetic that's
Yes.
in right now?
And look at the before and after photos of Lola Young. You can see what she looked like before she was famous and she was an independent artist. And then what she looks like now with a mullet, caked on makeup, face piercings, obese. Okay, you do actually have to uglify yourself and also be as vulgar as possible to take off.
Yeah.
And I won't say who it is, but there was a guest that we've had on the show before messaged me yesterday, and he said, I used to work with Sabrina Carpenter back in the day. Super nice girl. She's obviously getting pimped out by record labels. And I don't know what to make of that, because that kind of takes the onus off of her to create her own brand. and she certainly still has self-determination. But I think she made a calculated decision, just like Lola Young did, just like Chappell Roan did, and countless others, to pick a certain aesthetic that is vulgarized and coarse and crass to get more streams.
Yeah,
and it's clearly working. It's a working formula.
I don't know what would be the opposite aesthetic that works today, other than like a Taylor Swift, who has, I guess, more whimsical in nature to the type of her set design and how she dresses. It's more traditional pop star. But what would be the opposite aesthetic of something like this? It's just your traditional Beyonces and
the opposite aesthetic
of what these women are
of a
doing.
Lola Young.
Yeah, of what these women are doing.
I mean, there are conventionally attractive and generally inoffensive pop stars still. Like, you could say Taylor Swift is one of those examples. Maybe Gracie Abrams, perhaps.
Yeah, but she's J.J. Abrams' daughter, right? So.
But I also looked at her Spotify yesterday, and I was shocked. Like, literally all of her songs have hundreds of millions of streams.
Yeah.
And it's like,
who are these
nobody
people?
knows who Gracie Abrams is. They know who her dad is. But, you know, she clearly has some popularity to reckon with. And that's why, you know, people graffiti on the streets stop making stupid people famous.
I saw a thing the other day that Sabrina Carpenter said she was thinking about making her shows no cell phones. And then I laughed because I was just like, yeah, it's because you're doing weird shit that you're doing in front of kids.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, it's not because
exactly.
you want people to have a better experience.
Here's my hot take. Please, someone tell me the difference between a Sabrina Carpenter concert and Drag Queen Story Hour. If anyone has a theory as to what substantively makes those things different, please tell me, because I don't see the difference between these two things. She has the caked on makeup, the costume, she's dressing up as a caricature of a woman, and she is miming sex acts in front of children. What is the difference between that and drag brunch where people bring their kids?
Drag brunch.
Tell me the difference, because I'm just not seeing it. Okay?
All right.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.